Phalaenopsis repotting. Now, I think I've mentioned these before, but these are my first Phalaenopsis that I've ever had, and I've neglected them a lot. I haven't really given them the best care, and you know, they're kind of struggling a little bit. This was from the first summer I had them and something attacked them and the leaves are all scarred. This guy hasn't put out any new growth. This guy has put out this tiny, tiny new growth. I think that I haven't been giving them enough water. I haven't been giving them enough sun. They bloomed this year, but it was kind of like a pathetic blooming, like very tiny, struggling flowers. So I'm actually gonna repot this. This bark is pretty good. I'm not actually gonna replace all of the bark. I'm just going to add a little bit of sphagnum moss to kind of, to give it some more moisture so it doesn't struggle as bad. And right now this is in the bottom shelf of a southern facing window right next to my calathea, and I think it will do better there, but I'm gonna continue to monitor it. It has a little bit of leaf burn there, so maybe I'll move it a little bit back. Not sure, but we'll see. So like I said before, gardening is a very scientific hobby. You have to observe and see how the plant responds to your care, and then amend your care if it doesn't like it. Just don't go off whatever people say online. You kind of need to look at the plant you're dealing with, look how it responds, and then act accordingly. So we're gonna just kind of like gently get rid of this. Okay, so the roots don't look that bad. Not as bad as I thought. This guy looks really healthy, so that's good. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of sphagnum moss. Like I said, again, I'm gonna keep the bark, and we're just gonna kind of have a mess right now because I don't have any newspaper to put down because we just moved and I kind of recycled all the newspaper. So this bark mixture is still, so yeah, we're gonna have a mess, but this bark mixture is still wet. I did water this a couple days ago, but I just don't think that pure bark is good enough for my Phalaenopsis with the amount I water it, because again, like I said, I really neglect these two. I feel really bad. These are grocery store orchids, and they're, I've had them for like 3 years, so they're still alive. They're just struggling, and they've kind of been my first children, and I've made mistakes, but I'm learning. So I'm gonna like go ahead and keep some bark at the bottom, and I'm just gonna kind of layer some sphagnum moss, and I'm not gonna pack it too tightly, just gonna kind of keep it a little loose. And this guy has very long roots, so we'll put him in first. Yeah, I feel really bad. So yeah, I'm just gonna continue to layer some moss. Again, not packing it, just loose, because we don't want it to suffocate the plant at all. We want it to just hold in some moisture. And I'm gonna, yeah, so I'm just gonna pack it around a little bit. So I just got this sphagnum moss from Amazon. I got an entire bale of it, and it's quite a lot, and it should last me a good amount of time. I'm gonna put this in now. But it's not like the best quality sphagnum moss I've ever gotten. The best quality that I've gotten so far is the sphagnum moss from Orchid Insanity. See, this kind of has like a stick in it, which usually shouldn't happen. It's also got like, it's just got this, I mean, it's fine, whatever. But it's not pure, like, good quality sphagnum moss, like the one I've gotten from Orchid Insanity. It's okay. It'll do the job. I haven't had any problems with it. It hasn't given my orchids any diseases. as far as I know. But you know, you can always clean it with some hydrogen peroxide if you're concerned about that. Or just water with hydrogen peroxide. So I'm still kind of layering moss. I'm gonna kind of put a little bit of bark chips. To keep things kind of stable and aerated. I think Repot Me sells Phalaenopsis mix with bark chips and sphagnum moss, and I actually read on their site that they say not to put Phalaenopsis in pure bark, especially if it was in sphagnum moss before. And you see, mine hasn't really been liking the pure bark mixture, so now we learn, now we know, so we can avoid making that mistake in the future and make sure that our Phalaenopsis are well hydrated, as well as it has enough air. I have 3 other Phalaenopsis. One of them is blooming right now, and I'm not really sure if I'm going to repot it anytime soon. I got it from I got all 3 of them from the same nursery, rittersorchids.com, or not .com. I got it from their Etsy store. One of them's blooming. The other ones probably won't bloom until spring, and they're like packed in sphagnum moss. So now I'm just gonna go layer some more bark on top. They're like packed in sphagnum moss, and it's a very tight packing. So I'm not sure if I'm going to repot them in like a looser bark sphagnum moss mixture now, or if I'm gonna do that after they bloom in the summertime. I'm just gonna kind of, I don't know, decide as I go. But right now, even though they're like in packed like sphagnum moss, the roots that I see are very healthy and green, so I don't want to disturb them too much. But I feel like the roots in the center of all that sphagnum moss aren't really doing very well. In fact, actually, let me show you. I'll be right back. So this is the Phalaenopsis I got from Ritter's Orchids, and really beautiful blooms. But you see how like densely packed this is? So I'm not sure if I'm gonna leave it like this. Obviously I'm not gonna touch it now because it's in bloom. I have 2 more like this from the same nursery that I actually cut these holes so they would get more air. But the roots look really healthy, so I'm not really sure if I should repot it now or if I'm gonna do that more in the spring. But again, looks very, very healthy. Beautiful leaves, beautiful roots. These guys, not so much. So I'm gonna take, so that's part of this. The state that this orchid is in is kind of one of the reasons that I decided I'm going to repot this in sphagnum moss. But yeah, I think that this is fine. There are some roots exposed right now, but that's okay. It's kind of like flopping. Oh, maybe I'll put some more bark here. But yeah, this is a very awkward shape. Okay, so it's gonna be how it's gonna be, and we'll see if it likes this mix a little bit better. I'm really hoping that this guy decides to grow another leaf for me because it hasn't grown any new leaves. I'm really concerned. But yeah, well, thanks for watching. I hope